Welcome to the EQUIPPED Agronomy Podcast, where we bridge that gap between seeding equipment and agronomy. Presented to you by Borgo Industries. My name's Curtis DeGoyer, and I have with me over here Mr. Jeff Strukoff.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Jeff.
How you doing, Curtis?
I'm good.
It's good to see you. I haven't seen you for a few days.
It's been a minute. It's
not
good.
It's not normal.
No. Just office over.
Yeah.
But no, it's good, and we've got another thing we want to chat about today.
What are we going to talk about today?
Today, I thought we could chat about something near and dear to your heart: granular herbicides.
No kidding.
Granular herbicides. Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
And this is getting spurred on by the fact that we now have a new model of a Harrow, the XR8. But the more exciting part, and we can dive into some details on that thing, what's different between it and the last one, but we have the 1356 Granular Applicator. So, with us being part of Linamar, the parent company, we have a couple sister companies out there. One of them being Salford. So that opened up some doors for us to work with them on some specialized equipment. In this case, no, maybe nothing new per se. It's a Valmar. It's which Salford bought, and now that's what they sell. But they made it a little bit special for us to fit on this particular Harrow.
It's unique to us, yes.
Yeah, and so what's unique about this 1356 applicator that goes on the Harrow at Borgo? It's a little bit bigger. It's bigger than they've done in the past. Actually, before this was all going through with the sale, it was already in works with them to have something to put onto ours, and we'll make it, factory ready, let's say.
Yeah.
But then when the whole thing went through, it kind of expedited that process and worked with them a lot tighter and got that for us. So yeah, it was introduced at Ag in Motion in 2024. And yeah, now we're, chatting about it a little bit more, but the biggest thing with it's just bigger. It's like 4 times the amount, right?
Kind of like the XR8 Harrow.
Kind of like the XR8 Harrow. It's bigger.
Yeah.
Just in every way than the XR7.
Maybe we should talk about the Harrow first.
Okay.
And then we could circle back and talk about the 1356 after and how they tie together.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're kind of making this up on the fly, but I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay. So the XR8. What changed on it? Well, the biggest thing, it's 110 feet now, right? Over the XR7, we only went up to 90 before. We got up to 110 feet. What's unique is it just literally adds on 10-foot section on each wing. So you can turn a 90-foot into 110 foot. That's kind of the biggest thing. But then the booms got bigger too, as far as the actual bar.
Substantially bigger, yeah.
Yeah, 8 inch by 8 inch. Now it's 12 by 12. And any standard measurement, that's bigger. So yeah, some bigger tires on it there. The tow bars are bigger. They went to 5x5 versus 4x4. Different latching system, bigger cart being the kind of tow wagon thing that the 1356 is going to sit on. Positive hitch weight. So if anybody out there listening has an XR7, or there's other ones out there, other Harrows, that
there are, yeah.
When you unhooked it from your tractor in transport position.
If you forget the jacks.
If you forget the jacks and it goes whoop, and your Harrow stands straight up in the air, not to worry anymore with the XR8. There's a jack in the front, and there's always weight on the front. So you can put your jack down like you normally would on every other implement, and you're off to the races. So that's it. Did I forget anything on the Harrow? I mean, it's got the same section design, the adjustable down force and up force, the 10-foot sections that contour hydraulically.
Basically, all the features that you had on an XR7 that were really, really positive.
Yeah.
That really made it a good Harrow. There's very few conditions that you could find that you couldn't actually Harrow in because of the fact that you could have down force and up force. Mm-hmm. Kind of kept all those things, but then it just made it more robust overall.
Yeah.
I think kind of sums it up.
Yeah, I think you're right, eh? Just bigger.
Just bigger.
It's bigger. But you still get a 90-foot. Mm-hmm. Good. Well, I think that's the Harrow.
The neat thing, too, is it doesn't take much to actually turn a 90-foot into a 110-foot.
Yeah.
That
is unique.
Or vice versa. Like, like the trade options, whether you're trading in or out of a Harrow, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller to make the sale kind of thing. So it's good.
Could be some more flexibility at the dealer level for that. So that'll be good. But you know what? I want to get into the 1356 here. This applicator, I talked about it a little bit. It can hold up to 4 mini bulk bags. That's kind of the big thing. 320 acres worth of product typically, right? 4 sections. It's got 4 sectional control.
It kind of needs to be bigger too because it's a bigger harrow.
Like bigger harrow.
You can cover some serious ground in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'd want to be putting bags in, every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
When you're doing anywhere from, like, what were we doing? We were doing 120 to...
Yeah, 140 acres an hour, 120 acres an hour, kind of on average. Some guys claim they'll get up to 200 acres an hour going downhill.
That's aggressive.
That's aggressive, but it may be possible, but maybe not on the average. So yeah, we needed bigger capacity because we're crushing off acres more. Okay, so we got this bigger implement. So how does it run? Well, it just plugs into your ISO bus, runs off of your virtual terminal. You need the task controller unlocked to do sectional control because you have to have mapping in there. We actually did put in a variable rate map. We were using it on a Pro 700 tractor monitor there, and we did get it in, and it did change the rates, and which is maybe important. We'll maybe chat on that a little bit more, why that could be important for you moving forward here with that. So, why did this all come to be, I guess, is the biggest conversation here, right? Why would we go down this path? Why do we have this applicator? Why are they getting pulled out of the bushes, right? Why are these Valmars on harrows becoming more popular?
Yeah, there's very, very few old harrow bars with Valmars that are still operational from 25 years ago. Most of them, they've had the clutches welded together, nails put through to keep them running. There is no sectional or any type of control really. It's either on or off, or the poplars are growing up through the frames because they've been sitting there in the bush for so long. But it's like a lot of things. What was old is now new. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at.
It happens in fashion a lot.
It happens in fashion. We were joking around the other day about corduroy pants. You go back to the 60s and everyone used to wear corduroy pants, and they came back in the 80s, and they're going to come back again. 2026, you watch. I'm not even kidding. We're going to hear you walk up and down the hallway with just legs sliding back and forth.
Well,
but anyway, what was old is kind of new again, and how we got here is, I guess, a good spot to jump in.
Yeah, why
is because of weed resistance.
Weed resistance. So what's old, I guess, in this case, being granular herbicides, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, I have very little experience with granular herbicide because, we were always into liquid spray on weeds. But why don't you take me back, Jeff?
Back in the day, Curtis.
Yeah.
There was a lot of both that were used because they were the only tools that were really available, specifically for canola, because there wasn't any herbicide-tolerant canola back then. Right. It was conventional canola, and you picked your variety, and the only weed control options were older liquid or granular formulations, whether it was trifluralin, ethylfluralin. Out in Ontario, there was pendimethalin, but they either came in a liquid or a granular form. And the liquids, there's a lot of liquids used. A lot of people blended it with liquid fertilizer and floated it on in the fall. You had to incorporate it into the ground. But the liquids, actually, you had to have a very little amount of straw cover, like 25% straw cover or less, which is fairly black. Mm-hmm. But back then, we were actually still using tillage as a weed control option. So there was lots of black fields where you could use the liquid. In the event, you didn't have a black field, you could use the granular forms of all these herbicides and full apply them and still get the, relatively the same results, and you would achieve your weed control by doing that. But then all of a sudden herbicide tolerance rolls around. There's a lot easier methods and a lot easier application methods.
Right. So that would have been like in the 80s or 90s, and then...
Yeah, like the granular and the liquid forms of all those, like Treflan as an example, or Edge or Avidex, all those older type products. That was like 80s to mid-90s, and then right around, I'd say 96, that's when the first Liberty Link variety came out, and then Roundup came out after that, and things got easy, and guys pushed the easy button.
So when you say easy, you're talking, not pre-applying.
You didn't have to pre-apply anything. You just seeded the crop and sprayed it.
In-crop. We moved into in-crop.
In-crop, yeah.
Yeah, liquid spraying to take care of our weeds.
Yep. So then you become, tillage went by the wayside, not usually tilling anymore. Direct seeding became a thing, and our dependence on herbicides became a little bit greater. And then all of a sudden you run into a few issues with weed resistance.
Right.
So, first... You could pick some weeds that are all across North America, like wild oats as an example. You've got group 1 and group 2 resistant wild oats now. You've got cleavers that's, maybe that's more a Western Canadian weed, but kochia, there's a weed that's all across North America. You can almost guarantee that every kochia plant you find in a field is group 2 resistant. Well, you're limiting the amount of herbicide options that you can use on that. Now guys are actually running into some problems where there's a lot of cross resistance. So kochia as an example, we know for a fact that there's group 2 resistant kochia, group 4 resistant kochia, and group 9 resistant, which is Roundup resistant kochia.
That's kind of the big one.
It's kind of the big one, and that, breaks off and rolls around and spreads itself all over the place. Well, what do you do when you got multiple cross-resistant kochia? Well, all of a sudden, some of these older products that we haven't really used because they weren't that easy are coming back into fashion again. And there's a lot of edge, as an example, to control kochia. There's a lot of edge actually being used as a base treatment because they know they're going to have to layer different groups of herbicides in order to control that one specific weed.
Right. So in this case, let's say, okay, kochia, group 2, group 4, group 9 resistant.
Yeah.
What group is edge?
Yeah, like you got edge is a group 3.
A group 3.
Treflan's a group 3.
Okay.
Avidex is group 8. I don't know how, but for some reason, some people group it as group 15 as well, but it's always been a group 8 as long as I've known it. But they're different modes that we haven't used in a long time. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't group 3 resistant millet as an example. You go to Manitoba, there was actually a lot of group 3 resistant millet. But they haven't used these products there for a long time either. So now all of a sudden, there's been that resistant biotype has been kind of knocked in the head and gone away. Well, now all of a sudden you can kind of come back and use a 3 comfortably and know that it's actually going to work for you again.
Took a break from it. So it kind of went by the wayside because liquid. Okay, we had to work it in. We had to do a pre-plan it, right? Work it in, seed the crop. Okay, so now we don't have to do that. So then today, though, we can use these products because not in their liquid form because we don't have a lot of...
Yeah, well, everyone's direct seeding.
We have direct seed,
There's too much straw cover, so you can't use that, but you can still use a granule.
Because the liquid gets tied up? And why we can't?
It gets tied up with organic matter.
We don't want to... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which comes back to the fact where we talk about 1356 and variable rate. That's really important because the application rates of all these products is dependent on the organic matter in the soil. So the higher the organic matter, the more product you need. The less organic matter, the less product you need. Well, if you can apply all these things, that's like the holy grail, really, when you think about it.
Right.
Usually you go out into a field, you pick the highest organic matter region and you apply that heavy rate on the whole field. Well, you don't necessarily need to do that with this 1356 because you can put the right rate in the right zone, which is kind of cool, really.
Yeah, so you'd have, and this is all on their label, I'm assuming, right? So organic matter, whatever, 5% is this rate, 12 pounds or something, I don't know. And then organic matter, 2%, it's 8 pounds or something like that, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so we can VR. Now, don't get me wrong, that's good. I mean, this is a 110-foot harrow, so I mean, our zones are pretty big. Yeah. I understand that, but at least it gets you in maybe in the ballpark in some of these different areas then, eh?
Yeah.
Right.
Which is kind of neat, actually.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like corduroy pants. It's just coming back. It is.
Yeah, it's coming back. Well, we use some. So let's use our example where we used we did a half section of it. So we used it this fall, the 1356. So then we put in what equivalent to because there's a couple different. What's the active we used actually? Trifluralin, right? Okay, so that was on wheat stubble, and it's going into canola next year.
Correct.
Right? Okay, so going into canola, what are we targeting with?
Well, in our case, we're targeting. We know for a fact that we have group 2 resistant wild oats on that field.
Right. Sure do.
We also have. I don't want to swear, but we have a lot of buckwheat on that particular field as well. So the nice thing is when you're using some of these older technologies, like they do have a substantial amount of carryover. You're going to get season-long control on wild oats, season-long control on buckwheat. You're also probably going to get carryover to the following year on millet as well. So let's say it went back canola and went back into wheat. Yep.
So So it's not going to hurt the wheat though?
Oh, no.
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 Can you actually apply that? And this is my ignorance coming out. Can you apply that before wheat?
Well, there's other products that you can use, like Avidex or Fortress. That's more geared towards cereals where they have a reduced rate of trifluralin in them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Trifluralin has always been a canola.
Just a canola. Okay.
Canola, lentil, any pulse, any canola, brassica species you could use that on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So we've got that down.
And then one other thing just to point out too, we were talking about Avidex earlier too, being a group 8. There is cross resistance group 1 and group 2 resistant wild oats out there where Avidex is a good option for some guys that are struggling to control resistant biotypes of wild oats. But more importantly, as far as I know, and someone could maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the only wild oat herbicide that you can actually use in canary seed at this point. Unless you want to go off label and damn near kill your canary and
I see.
Use a cut rate of an ox prop or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, the only control option for wild oats and canary seed is Avidex.
Avidex.
So, yeah.
So now, okay, I'm just going to wrap up our example. Okay, going in canola, we're targeting our wild oats, how do you say it?
Trifluralin.
Okay, well, I'm going to say it like everyone else. Trifluralin.
Yeah, there you go.
Will we have to spray an in-crop?
Chances are, this is kind of like a stacking method. Like, okay, we know we have group 2 resistant out there. I'm still budgeting on spraying wild oat in that field.
Okay.
Because there are some areas where you're going to have draws in the field where it stays a little bit cooler, a little bit longer. The wild oats might germinate ahead of when the herbicide actually gets activated in the soil. So you might have maybe it'll only be a spot spray. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like 100%. You shouldn't expect 100% effectiveness, right?
It's like a base layer treatment.
Okay.
So, but it is a
tilts the favors in our odds to actually control these. So,
like when you put it in perspective, there's some places in the world. Just as an example, if you go to England, they have a weed called blackgrass. Mm-hmm. They spend in the neighborhood of $200 an acre on one weed. I believe there's 43 control options for blackgrass, and blackgrass is resistant to 31 of them. So they use multiple modes of action just to control that one specific weed. So this is kind of like a proactive approach where, okay, we already know we got group 1 and group 2, but let's just keep throwing different modes at resistant biotypes, and maybe we can actually manage this longer term for a cheaper amount per acre for cost of herbicide. So,
but these herbicides, we're kind of using it, quotations here, as a rescue. All right, we got ourselves backed into a situation, and I would say this isn't uncommon.
Yep.
In a lot of different places where we need to do something.
We
to control.
inherited this problem just for the record.
Yeah. Okay. However you get to that position, right? Okay, we have an option at least, but it's not detrimental to be proactive. Obviously, right?
This is a positive thing to do, I think.
Yeah, ahead of other acres that you maybe don't have a problem yet. Hey, still something. Maybe we, look at, right? We don't want to get backed into a corner on it. So, something to consider, I suppose, on that side of it. But
long and short of it is, we have a Harrow and we have a 1356 applicator. And historically, guys used it to seed canola with it on wet years, or they wanted to seed grass seed and they needed a way of putting it down. Well, now all of a sudden there's a third option again because we're going back and using these granular herbicide options.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a multi-purpose tool. It's available on a Harrow. If you want the Harrow and you don't want it, you can just get the Harrow. But if you do want a granular applicator, it's available and it's made specifically for Borgo.
And it's a big capacity. And I think that's kind of the bigger thing, right?
Yeah.
Go knock off half section at a time.
Yep.
And not have to refill. So it's still like you're slowing down your harrowing process too badly, right? And you got to fill it every now and then. But it's an option, I think, because like I said, we were talking about before, there are a lot getting pulled out of the bushes and there's a lot of different things, but this is just a new option, bigger option. Sectional control is nice, VR is nice on it.
Yep.
Variable rates. So a couple things. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add on that topic at all? Weed resistant, where we came from, how we're here now, options to control it.
You know what? In all honesty, that's like an hour and a half conversation and we've only got 20 minutes. So maybe this is a good time to wrap it up.
let's do that then. Well, thank you very much for all of your expertise on this subject, and I can't wait to learn for another hour and a half from you here after this one's done. So, okay, well, with that, I want to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll chat with you next time.
Absolutely.